close we are to absolute chaos. The sick ones are sitting on their fat masses, eating and drinking themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought while it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. You know, the shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride, and they bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out.
Revolution Radio, where we do the math. www.freedomforce.com. Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon the finest first, those who truly understand it. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, the souls of patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, it is now. The siren sounds first in the hearts of freedom's vanguard, who come from their simple homes to find the fire and fight. That symbolizes the full measure of human dignity and liberty. Radio listeners, the sun is rising across this great United States, and that means straight from the heart of Texas, it is time for Clayton Douglas, the Free American. Take it away, Clayton.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you, I used to jokingly say I may be the last free American out there, but that's not a joke anymore. My guest today is Michael Connelly. Hello, Michael. Are you with me?
I am, Clayton.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you coming on because you've got a list of websites. I put that up on my website, freeamerican.com, and you're talking about some of the subjects that I think are the most important subjects in the world today. One is our veterans and the way our veterans are being treated. I've done shows this past month on the 4th of July Patriot who got railroaded and put in prison for 30 years on false charges. I see on your website, which is the United States Justice Foundation, one of them, that the Marine who criticized Obama on Facebook has been discharged. He says, I have a Gary Stein. He said, I'm having a hard time seeing how 15 words on Facebook could have ruined my 9-year career. And the other subject we're talking about is our Second Amendment and how that is being taken away. There was a video put up by a gentleman by the name of Mark Dice, and it was kind of a spoof, kind of a takeoff on Penn and Teller's, a bit that Penn and Teller did a few years back about getting people to sign a petition to ban water under a different name. They used hydrogen monoxide, and which is another term for water, and people were signing it. And what really blew me away, at first I thought it was real. I thought somebody was really trying to take a petition and do this. But as it went on, as the video went on a little bit, I realized that he was really just kind of making fun of the people that actually signed the petition. They were actually signing this petition, and he's telling them, yeah, we need to take the guns away from the veterans and those right-wing, those Tea Party people. You know, the gangbangers will still have their guns, but that's okay. You can call the police, and the police will take care of them. And it was. It just amazed me at the ignorance exhibited by the American people, and I still have a real hard time understanding whether it's the fluoride in the water, the chemtrails in the air, or the programming that you're subjected to on television, or if Charlotte Iserbyt was right and the public fool system is dumbing Americans down so badly they can't put 2 and 2 together. Your opinion, Michael Connelly.
Well, it's incredible what's happening over there. And the United States Justice Foundation, we've been around for 35 years. I just took over as executive director. And what we do is we defend people whose constitutional rights are being violated. And needless to say, we're very, very busy right now. And one of the major problems we're looking at is the Second Amendment. And I saw this video about this petition being signed, and he also did one on the First Amendment, by the way, where he talked about we need to take away the rights of free speech and keep these Tea Party people and right-wingers from saying things we don't want them to say. And people were signing that one in droves, too. It was unbelievable what was going on. But we deal with, across the board, the Constitution, the entire Bill of Rights. And what people don't realize is, and I've written a booklet called Our Constitution, where I take each section, each article, each amendment to the Constitution, print them exactly the way they were originally written, and then put my comments about what they really mean. And one of the things in this booklet that most people have never even seen, because it's not usually in the textbooks where they print the Constitution, and that's the preamble to the Bill of Rights. Now, people are familiar with the preamble of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, but not to the Bill of Rights. And that preamble basically says that the rights enumerated in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, are not rights given us by the government. Because if we acknowledge that the government gave us these rights, then we acknowledge that they can take them away. It says these are God-given rights that belong inherently to all Americans and to all free people. And the government has no right to mess with them. The Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed upon. And I keep asking the liberals, well, what part of not being infringed upon do you not understand? Because that's what they're doing. You know, basically Congress yesterday, they voted down an amendment on the background checks. But like Mark Levine, who's here in Texas and a lawyer and talk show host, said the other day, what are they doing having an up and down vote on the Second Amendment? They can't do that in Congress. All it can do with the Bill of Rights or any part of the Constitution is try to amend it. And that requires 2/3 vote of both houses, and it also requires 3/4 of the state legislatures in the country ratify an amendment. They're not supposed to, under the Constitution, be coming in here and doing an up or down vote. Yet that's the type of stuff they're pulling. And this is not over. We won a big victory yesterday that Obama has got the Small Arms Treaty with the United Nations, which he's going to sign, and may try to bypass the Senate, even though it's required the Senate ratify it by 2/3 vote. He may try to bypass the Senate and force that. He's got his executive orders out there. And then he has his minions in the, for example, the Veterans Administration, trying to disarm America's heroes, and succeeding to a great extent. And that's one of the things that we're preparing to fight, or are fighting right now, through the United States Justice Foundation.
You know, that they attacked the veterans, Homeland Security, DHS, attacked the veterans in their assessment report last year. You know, they pretty much they attacked me, and I even had ABC call me up and ask me what I thought about it, and my response to them was the same one you just said. What part of the Second Amendment don't you understand? You know, I've been being attacked here since after Waco. I helped start the militias, and I started the Free American radio show and the Free American magazine, which was distributed nationally. And I got attacked time and time again. Still, the militias still are under attack, and yet the militias are growing. And again, my response is, what part of the Second Amendment don't you understand? What part of U.S. Code don't you understand? Everybody, every able-bodied male in America between the ages of 18 and 45 is the militia. And the governor, the sheriff, can call them up at any time that he needs to, if he needs to. Isn't that, is that accurate?
Yeah, it's a little accurate. I mean, you know, the Second Amendment was not about duck hunting, and that's one of my favorite statements. The Second Amendment was not even about people having weapons to protect themselves in their homes, even though one of the things that happens when people are armed is to protect themselves. The Second Amendment was put in the Constitution specifically because the Founding Fathers had just fought a long and bloody war to secure our freedom from the British. They were setting up a brand new form of government. They did not know if it was going to work. The Second Amendment was put in there because they were afraid that some group or individual would turn our new form of government into a tyranny, and that Americans would need to be armed to resist tyranny. And that has not changed. We still have the right to be armed to resist tyranny, and that's what the Second Amendment is all about. And what they're doing to our veterans, let me explain briefly what's happening here, because this is horrendous, and we're out trying to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, basically, to fight all the lawsuits here. Veterans, they have in the VA program, something called the fiduciary program, which has been around for a number of years. And it was designed with a veteran who was receiving VA payments and benefits, who got elderly or got sick, had some reason that they could not handle their own financial affairs, like dementia or something like that, then the VA would appoint a family member, usually, as a fiduciary to handle their affairs for them. And if there was no family member available, they would appoint somebody outside. Well, the system has been abused horribly over the last few years, but we won't go into that part of it. What happened is in 2007, after the Virginia Tech shootings, and there was no veteran involved in those shootings, but after the Virginia Tech shootings, Congress enacted an amendment to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. And that's a system where if you go buy a gun at a gun store, you have to go through that system, have your background check, and if you are a convicted felon if you are a drug user, or if you have been adjudicated mentally ill to the point where you're a danger to yourself or others, you cannot buy a firearm. Well, Congress amended it to add veterans to it who have been adjudicated to be mentally deficient to the point, again, where they were a danger to themselves or others. Well, the VA, and this is rapidly accelerated under the Obama administration, the VA has decided that they can adjudicate this on their own, that you do not have to go before a judge, they do not have to have a psychiatrist evaluate a veteran. They are sending out letters to veterans saying that we have received information, and often they don't tell the veteran where the information came from or what the information is. We've received information that indicates that you cannot handle your own financial affairs. And then it goes on to say, we are going to appoint somebody we're going to declare you incompetent and appoint somebody to handle your affairs for you. Then further it says, once we determine you are incompetent, you cannot own, possess, or purchase, or transport firearms or ammunition. And if you do so, you will be criminally charged of a felony. Now, they are using criteria, and we have filed a Freedom of Information Act request, actually two, that are being ignored by the VA, because we want to know what the criteria is for finding somebody incompetent, and number two, what criteria is for putting them on the background check list if they cannot own weapons. The VA has refused to respond, so in the next couple of days we're going to be filing a lawsuit against them for that. But veterans are being declared incompetent because they have minor PTSD, and then Dianne Feinstein, in pushing her gun control bill in the Senate, said that all veterans have PTSD, and therefore no veterans should be allowed to own firearms. But of course that's not true. But then veterans who have minor depression, veterans who have, the letter says, that physical or mental disabilities can make you incompetent, have them declared incompetent. So if a veteran's lost an arm or a leg in Afghanistan or Iraq, they can be found incompetent. And they're being found incompetent. There's no due process here in the Fifth Amendment. The veterans have to fight this on their own, at their own expense, and they don't even know what they're fighting half the time. Once they're declared incompetent, if they manage to file suit and get themselves the incompetency ruling changed, they still aren't getting taken off the background check list. So their Second Amendment rights are being taken away. Now, I'm a veteran. I have two sons currently serving. My father was a veteran. I wrote my best-selling book about his unit in World War II. I was a commander of an American Legion post here in Carrollton, Texas for 2 years. I know veterans. I know what they're going through, particularly the ones that are coming back now from Iraq and Afghanistan. They don't need this kind of treatment. We have determined that now there are 150,000 veterans on the list of the National Instant Criminal Background Check list. 99% of them do not belong on that list. It's getting worse. They are telling veterans who are trying to dispute this that if you fight us on this fiduciary thing, if you fight us when we're trying to declare you incompetent, we're going to stop paying you. We're going to cut off your funds that you're getting from the VA. Now, this is money that people have earned on the battlefield. This is money that they're entitled to. This is money that some families live off of. Yet they're using that as an extortion method to get them to not fight them on this issue. We also have found that they are going after widows. And we have one woman that we're going to be representing who basically was at the VA, and her husband was killed in Vietnam, and she'd been receiving VA payments for years. And she was at the VA, and they asked her how she can handle her financial affairs, and she says, no problem, everything's done automatically. That's all my bills are paid automatically through my checking account. Based on that, they declared her incompetent. And she is now on the National Instant Criminal Background Check list. It's incredible what's happening. We're hearing from veterans all over the country. The horror stories are growing. We are preparing to file several lawsuits at least. And we do not ever charge our clients any fees or any expenses for handling constitutional cases. We're not going to charge the veterans or their family members anything. We are going to raise the money, hopefully, through donations to fund on this law, this litigation, because it's going to be very expensive. But it has to be done. Our veterans deserve it, and we can do what else. So if people want to help, if they want to donate to us, they can go to USJF.net, and they can, that's our website, the USJFstaff Foundation. They can keep up with what we're doing, because we're going to be upgrading the website. We've already posted some information on there about what's happening here. But this is just one example of what's going on. This is an example of how Obama is planning to disarm America. And the reason for this is you have 21 million veterans out there. We're all trained. We all know how to fight. We all know how to use firearms. We all took the same oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We believe in that oath. We follow that oath.
Michael, Michael, I've been telling my audience for 20 years now the same thing. There was no expiration date on that oath I took in 1964. I didn't go to Vietnam. They tried to kill me before I got there, but I said they simply don't want well-trained veterans coming back. Now, what I've told people is anytime a communist regime takes over a country, they go after three classes of people in order. The first is the farmers, because they don't want you being able to feed yourself. The second is the intelligentsia. That would be anyone that's smart enough to know what the hell they're trying to do. And third, they go after the veterans and law enforcement that are loyal to the old regime, and that would be you and I. That would be the oath keepers, who also realize there's no expiration date on that. And, you know, I volunteered for Vietnam to fight communism, but the more I studied, I became aware that every plank on the Communist Manifesto is intact in America today. So we're fighting 100 years, basically, of communist control. And that's a major obstacle, isn't it? I mean, now, did I say anything that wasn't absolutely true in that last statement?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they have, if people read the program that the communists had adopted years ago for taking over the United States internally, if they read it, they will see how close we are to all of that being put into effect. And think about this, too. When Adolf Hitler was elected Chancellor of Germany, and he was elected, just like Obama was elected President of the United States, when Adolf Hitler was elected Chancellor of Germany, the first thing he did was take control of the healthcare system, nationalize the German healthcare system so that he could control access to healthcare, figuring that if I control access to healthcare, I can control the people. The second thing he did was to disarm the German people. And the third thing he did was to decimate the German military. He started getting rid of the members of the military, many of whom had supported him in the beginning because they thought he would create a strong military for their country. But see, they had a constitution too. They had taken an oath of office. He got rid of those people and put in his own people who were loyal to him, who took an oath of office to him. And somebody is supposed to be sending me something that I had not seen yet, but I was told about it in a meeting the other day, that the FEMA is training these wave of soldiers, civilian soldiers basically, who will be loyal to Obama. And they are being armed, and FEMA is buying it, and Homeland Security is buying billions and millions of rounds of ammunition, 1,700 assault weapons, 2,300 Stryker assault vehicles. They're training these kids basically, and somebody's going to send me a copy of their oath of office, which they said is not an oath to uphold the Constitution. It basically is an oath to obey the orders of Obama. And so, you know, that Obama's following exactly the pattern that Adolf Hitler followed. He's following exactly the pattern that other dictators have followed, and that is to disarm the American people. And like you say, one of the first elements they have to disarm are the veterans, because
now one of the
expiration date.
You've touched on another problem that we have, and that's the whole pharmaceutical industry. You know, they have created diseases, and frankly, I believe if you've been to Afghanistan, if you've been to Iraq, if you've been to Vietnam, and you don't have post-traumatic stress syndrome from fighting an illegal war against people that have never basically attacked this country, never been a threat to this country, and you don't have a post-traumatic stress syndrome, then you are sick. Then there is something wrong. I mean, it's called a conscience. You know, that's the way God talks to us, isn't it?
That's correct.
And by creating these diseases, they are feeding our veterans, and the VA is guilty of this. I've lost a lot of friends in VA hospitals. They are feeding them these drugs that, and then they want to make it illegal for them to own arms because they fed him these drugs. So
yeah, I'm hearing a lot of information from veterans out there about being told that they have to take certain drugs that they don't want to take, and they say the drugs make them feel worse than they are. And you know, the whole idea is PTSD. I mean, again, Dianne Feinstein says all soldiers have PTSD, and then she comes out and says something even stupider. She says the PTSD came about because of the Iraq War. Well, PTSD was, of course, they used the term back during the Vietnam War. Of course, prior to that time, they called it battle fatigue or being shell-shocked. And you know, civilians get PTSD or can get it if they're in an automobile accident or something like that. So the whole idea is that it is not a disabling situation. It is, like you say, to a great extent, people have been through traumatic experiences, and they have to deal with it. They have to learn to deal with it. Medication is not the answer. And yet our soldiers are being told they have to take the medication. If they don't take the medication, they lose their VA benefits. And a lot of them have gotten to the point now, I talked to a young soldier here recently who will not go to VA, even though he's entitled to be treated there. He will not go because he doesn't want to be asked about his guns. How many guns do you own? Where do you keep them? You know, all of this type of information that they're demanding that these kids give to the VA, they feel like their privacy is being invaded. Isn't that correct? Or it is being invaded.
I've just interviewed a Navy veteran, 50-year Navy veteran on the East Coast, that they'd done the same thing. The VA called him, the police went out, they confiscated his guns. So that's happening too, isn't it? That was just this last week I spoke with him.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're representing several people in the same situation. The VA is, for example, they are calling up veterans and saying, you have to come in for writing them and saying you have to come in for a psychological evaluation. Even though there's never been any history of any psychological problems, they're demanding that they come in. And the veterans that are being targeted seem to be the ones who are claimed to be firearms instructors or known to be gun collectors. These are the veterans being targeted. This is not an accident. This began to be accelerated about 3 or 4 years ago. And the instructions were given to VA personnel to ask questions about veterans, about whether or not they ever feel depressed, and how they pay their bills, and whether or not they own firearms. And your answers to those questions, as innocent as you may believe they are, can trigger the response of the VA to disarm you. We have one veteran who's out in Arizona, who's a Vietnam veteran, who basically, in response to one of these questions, said, well, yeah, I'm getting older, sometimes I forget to pay my bills on time. Well, I'm 65 years old. I forget where my glasses are half the time. Does that make me incompetent on firearms? According to the VA, it probably would, because him saying that sometimes he forgot to pay his bills on time made the VA go after him. And he fought it for 2 years. They declared him incompetent. He fought it for 2 years. Finally got the incompetency declaration reversed, and he's still on the background checklist. He still can't buy firearms.
Well, let me put it this way. Since I started the militias in New Mexico in 1994, I've probably been on a no-fly list. I I haven't even tried since 9/11. No sense in it. And I'm not going to be felt up, and I ain't pulling my boots off for nobody. But they tried to kill me in 2004. I've been publishing the Free American for 10 years, doing this radio show for 10 years, and they tapped everybody's phones, and I believe mine was one of the first. They arranged an accident. They sent me to the hospital and kept me drugged, Halcyon, Haldol, Valium, morphine, for 3 months. Now, I believe that was an attempt to kill me, and the only mistake they made was trying to overdose an old biker, and that just didn't work. But they did the same thing. Well, they sent me to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist, Mr. Douglas, do you know why you're here? And I said, frankly, no. Well, you're here so I can determine if you're competent. And I said, well, see, that's what I don't understand. Of course I'm competent. And, well, I have to ask you some questions. Do you ever hear voices when no one's there? No. Do you see people in the room when no one's there? No. You know, not unless you've got me drugged out on morphine. No, I don't do that. And do you have any special powers that other people don't? Well, yes, I do. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what special powers do you have that other people don't? I said, I read 1,000 words a minute. I got 90% comprehension. I don't know many people can do that. Do you? And that after it was all over, he said, well, I said, how do I do, Doc? He said, well, you're not crazy, but you're certainly eccentric. And I said, well, I'll let that go. They tried to keep me on drugs after I was released from the hospital 4 months later, after I'd been visited by supposedly CIA, after they tried to give me injections and threatened to bring the security in to hold me down so they could give me an injection of something I didn't know what it was. I refused to do that. I backed down 4 security guards. And when I got out of the hospital, they wanted me to take this medication. My response is, you know, the only thing I need is a joint and a Harley, and I'm not taking nothing else. So I got away from them. I got out, and I haven't been back to a doctor or a VA, the VA ever. I wouldn't go to the VA. And you know, they demonized me pretty severely over the last 10 years, since 2004. But, you know, they'll tell you I started the militia. They just don't tell you I did it in the governor's office. Governor Gary Johnson in New Mexico was the commander of the militia in New Mexico. We certainly weren't a terrorist group. And that's what they're doing with the Homeland Security Assessment Report. They were trying to demonize anybody that was in Christian identity, anybody that was in the militia, and the veterans. And they've kept that up and escalated that. Now, when Waco happened, I said I refused to sit back and watch something like that happen on television without trying to do something about it. I've been trying to do something about it ever since. And now we've got Sandy Hook. Now we've got the Boston Marathon. I mean, these are false flag attacks. And I would also like to, speaking of false flags, we could mention the USS Liberty, when they tried to sink that same way they sunk the Maine and tried to blame it on somebody that had nothing to do with it. We are really under, this is escalating, and I believe we are right at the point that the Russians were never our enemies. But in the film that I did right before, by accident, before I was set up, before my phone calls were taped, I come out with the true face of FEMA. And I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting in Albuquerque at Sandia Labs. Colonel John Brinkerhoff was lecturing law enforcement. And what he said in that film, and I responded to that film and put that film out, only to be targeted even stronger. He said, we're in for a long war. This war may go on longer than the Cold War. And this war will be fought on American soil. You know, we've always been, America's been a safe haven, but this war will be fought on American soil, and our enemy is weak. Our enemy doesn't have planes, he doesn't have helicopters, he don't have tanks, so he's going to use unconventional means, and we have to use unconventional means to respond to him. What he is saying, and the way I translated that anybody that opposes one world government of the banksters, by the banksters, and for the banksters, that's who the war on terror is against. Anyone, anywhere in the world that opposes one world government is being targeted, and they're calling us a terrorist. They're calling us terrorists. They are making. I've said you can consider me the canary in the coal mine. When they come after me, you know, it's just a matter of time before they will come after you, because I'm always been a little bit outspoken. I'm an old biker, and I don't take shit off nobody. So, what they said at that Homeland Security meeting almost over 10 years ago is happening right now. And the war is on the soil, and the only thing that he didn't say, that Colonel Brinkerhoff didn't tell law enforcement, is the enemy is us. I have met the enemy, and he is us. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, particularly when you look at what Obama has done with the 26 over 23s. He signed executive order, remember, after Sandy Hook, and there are 23 executive actions he took in there. Okay? And first of all, he's not supposed to be making law by executive action. There is no such thing in the Constitution. He can issue executive orders to do something if Congress is not in session, and it can be on a temporary basis. But Obama, you know, under Article 2 of the Constitution, Obama is tasked with enforcing the laws passed by Congress. He's not supposed to choose which laws to enforce, which he does all the time. He's certainly not supposed to make laws, but he does that all the time. Anyway, on these executive actions on gun control, and by the way, the picture of him surrounded by children as he signed this was unbelievable, because if you look back in history, if you look in the history books, you'll see a number of pictures of Adolf Hitler surrounded by children, signing orders, very similar to what Obama's done, and, you know, make himself look good. But anyway, one of these executive actions was to tell Eric Holder to go through the list of the categories in the background checklist for firearms, to go through that list to find out if any dangerous people, and I'm quoting here from Obama's order, any dangerous people are slipping through the cracks. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Clay, is the dangerous people that Homeland Security says are out there. This list included people who support the right to life, people who support the Second Amendment, veterans, people who, this is the way they put it, people who believe in excessive individual liberty and limited government are also potential terrorists. One of the latest they put on here, and this is the one that I thought it would be funny if it wasn't, you know, so scary. They have listed as potential terrorists anybody who has an over 7-day supply of food and water. Now, DHS does this. FEMA, on the other hand, comes out in their little guidelines for people, particularly living in storm areas, potential storm areas, tell people to maintain a 2-week supply of food and water. So we have one federal agency saying, keep your food and water, and the other saying, if you do, we're going to list you as a terrorist. So they're using what Obama's going to do and what Eric Holder's going to do is they're going to use this list, and they're going to keep adding people to it. They're going to keep adding people to the list of people prohibited from buying firearms. And what they're doing with the veterans, by the way, is they're not just adding it to the list of people prohibited from buying firearms. They're telling them that if they already own firearms, they have to turn those firearms in.
That's
they
right.
Have to give them up.
Now, this stemmed back a few months ago, or almost a year now, the CTC, that is combating in a report from the Combating Terrorism Center at West Point, anti-federalists who oppose a new world order, as well as members of several other far right-wing activist groups, are potential terrorist threats. And that's exactly what I've been telling people, that the war on terror is a war against anyone, anywhere that opposes one world government. Now, I think we're at the point where the Russian people were right after the Bolshevik Revolution. They did the same things. Now, you know, if you're listening to Alex Jones or some of your more moderate talk show hosts, you know, they'll tell you about Hitler, but they don't talk about Stalin murdering 60 million white Christian Russians. And now, let me ask you this. Why is DHS, why is the Department of Homeland Security, which I consider the the same thing as the Stasi or the same thing as the KGB, why are they buying all of the hollow point ammunition and putting tanks in our streets right now? If they don't plan to hurt us now, we've heard about the FEMA camps. People wanted to deny that those exist, but they've certainly done that under the BRAC Commission. They've taken over military bases, decommissioned military bases, and built containment centers. I mean, we've got our gulags in operation right now, don't we?
Well, people don't want to believe that the Department of Homeland Security is doing this. They're preparing for a war against the American people. They're preparing for the American people for an economic collapse that will precipitate riots in the streets and that sort of thing. But primarily, they're preparing for the American people resisting tyranny. And they want to keep us from resisting it by, number one, disarming us, and number two, buying up the ammunition and having themselves having their own private army. Now, it was totally overlooked in 2008 when Obama was running for president, when he said in his speech, and he only said this one time that I know of, and I caught it immediately and scared me half to death at that point. He talked about having a civilian defense force that was equally well armed and equally financed to the military, but which, of course, he didn't say this, but which, of course, was supposed to be loyal just to him. Well, that's what he does in DHS and FEMA. And I tell people that, FEMA's buying up these Stryker vehicles. And Strykers are armored personnel carriers used in Afghanistan and Iraq, which are mounted with 50 caliber machine guns and grenade launchers. These are vehicles designed for attack purposes. They're not designed to help people, the hurricane victims, or people in wildfire victims. Yet FEMA has ordered 2,300 of these. Now, do they really exist, or is this conspiracy theory? I have 3 eyewitness reports now. One from somebody in Arizona who saw these sitting in the rail yard on rail cars preparing to be transported. They had DHS or FEMA logos on the side of the vehicles. I had some friends who were in Alabama who saw a couple of these on the streets in many cities in Alabama, actually on the streets. And then just 2 days ago, I talked to a friend who owns a ranch here in Texas, a very large ranch, and there's a railroad that runs through it, rail line, and there's a siding there. And he spotted on the siding several dozen rail cars sitting there with, again, these armored Stryker vehicles sitting there on these cars. Now, so these things are all over the country. What do they need these for? What good do assault vehicles do in a Hurricane Sandy situation or in a Katrina situation? They don't do any good, but they have them. And they're preparing to use them against the American people. That's the only obvious conclusion we can draw here. And people can say, oh, you're engaging in conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory if, in fact, it's there. And these vehicles are there. They are buying up ammunition Department of Homeland Security, at the same time they were trying to ban so-called assault weapons in private ownership by Americans. I never even know what an assault weapon is. But they were trying to ban things like AR-15. FEMA was buying 1,700 fully automatic weapons. And they were telling us, oh, the AR-15 is no good for personal protection. FEMA justified, or not FEMA, but DHS justified purchasing the 1,700 fully automatic weapons as, oh, these are perfect for personal protection. That's why we're buying them, so our agents can protect themselves. Why do they need this much ammunition? Why is the Social Security Administration buying 24,000 rounds of hollow point ammunition? Why does the National Weather Service buy thousands of rounds of hollow point ammunition? Hollow point ammunition is for killing people. Hollow point ammunition is not for target practice. It is not to be used for target shooting. You don't shoot clay pigeons with hollow point ammunition. It is to be used in a combat situation. And that's exactly what's going on here. And it's, you know, people can yell about this being conspiracy theory. There's no other logical conclusion other than what they're doing. And, you know, like you said, Stalin did it. He killed millions of his own people. Mao Zedong killed millions of his own people. Fidel Castro killed thousands of his own people. And Cuba is still going on. And the people that live down there are, you know, still in bondage. And, you know, look at what Obama did with, we sent a delegation to the funeral of Richard Rose, a communist dictator. Margaret Thatcher dies, who was an ally of ours, and we don't send anybody, you know, on the front to the British allies. But that's Obama. I mean, that's what's going on. We have no friends in the world anymore. Nobody trusts us anymore. We can't get intelligence sharing from anybody. If anybody shares intelligence with us, they're afraid it's going to be in the front page of the New York Times the next day. With Obama, if he wants to leak a secret that's dangerous to us or somebody of our friends in the world, if he thinks he can get political advantage by doing it, he'll do it.
Mike, after I started the militia in the governor's office, they listed me in the Free American in the report called Armed and Dangerous, put out by the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. And, you know, I might remind people that the Bolsheviks were the precursor to the ADL, APAC, and Southern Poverty Law. They listed me in Armed and Dangerous. I called them up in New York, and I said, hi, this is Clay Douglas. I just wanted you guys to know you finally got something right. I am armed, and if you mess with my country, my family, or me, I'm definitely dangerous. Well, they didn't stop, and they tried to kill me after that. But you know, the J. Edgar Hoover even told us that Kennedy talked about this conspiracy. They killed him after issuing Executive Order 11110. You know, the Benjamin Friedman, Aaron Russo, I mean, there's a lot of people, some of them Jewish, that has tried to tell us what the plan is. Nicholas Rockefeller wants us all chipped. So, you know, you won't be able to buy or sell without your chip. And if you go against the government, well, they'll just turn off your chip. You won't be able to go, you won't be able to get your Social Security. You won't be able to do anything. And that's even in Obama's health care plan, isn't it?
Yeah, there's indications in there that they want to put everybody, a tracking device basically on everybody. Starting out by, you're going to be issued cards with a barcode on them where they can access your financial information and access your health information and your health history. That's not enough, but then there's some portions in there that seem to indicate they want to go further than that. They want to have a microchip inserted in everybody, you know, in your forearm or something like that, so you can be tracked. But they're tracking, I mean, they're put 30,000 drones in the air over the United States, so they can track what we're doing. I mean, those drones, number one, some of them are capable of being armed, so Obama could kill somebody with them. And he's already signed this executive order basically giving himself the authority and to kill American citizens without due process, without a trial, without even being arrested. He can just kill an American citizen on American soil. He can have the Congress gave him the power to arrest, have the military arrest American citizens on American soil, and, excuse me, and hold us indefinitely without due process. So, you know, the drones are going to be looking at us. They're going to be monitoring what we do. The federal government has already said they're going to start looking at our emails without a warrant, in violation of the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. They're going to be monitoring what we do on the internet, monitoring who we talk to on the telephone, tracking our movement of our vehicles. Basically, they want to know everything we're doing. And this is a totalitarian philosophy. It's a totalitarian state. It relegates us to nothing other than doing drones ourselves. And, you know, we're supposed to think what they want us to think, do what they want us to do, and behave as they want us to behave. And that's one of the things the U.S. Justice Foundation has been fighting for a long time. And that's what I write about in my blog. You know, I'm on blog on constitutional law. And I write about all of this. I've read about Obamacare. In 2009, in August, I wrote the first article about Obamacare, pointing out that it was unconstitutional. I had read the 1,100-page bill, House Bill 3200, that had been introduced. And I talked about how this was not about health care at all. This was a massive power grab by the President of the United States, by the federal government, to take away individual rights and to control the people of this country through health care. And I pointed that out, and I pointed out all the bad things that were going to happen if it passed. And I was attacked, you know, by a Media Matters, a George Soros-funded outfit, and it was accused of being a liar, accused of being crazy. Well, everything I said in that article and subsequent articles has come to pass with Obamacare. It is a totalitarian design. It's designed to control the American people. The people, I said, are going to be death panels. Well, they're death panels, and guess where they are testing these death panels out, it appears? In the VA system. Right here in Dallas, where I live, we have a VA hospital. And this is not me saying this. This is not me coming up with this on my own. One of the local television stations has been investigating this for months. At the VA hospital, you have veterans who have cancer, who are being told they have to wait 6 months or more to get chemotherapy. You have veterans who have heart problems who cannot get treated for up to a year. I see this as a practice run for the death panels. They want to do this universally. They want to basically tell the American people, we need to decide who lives and who dies. And this is something that's going on. And again, we're going to be doing a lot of this stuff at the United States Justice Foundation, so people go to USJFstaff.net and they can find out what we're doing. And you know, if they want to help, they can. I won't say this. Any veterans who have received these letters, any veterans who are being denied their constitutional rights, or have been declared incompetent or threatening to be declared incompetent, go to USJFstaff.net and send me an email or send us your phone number, and it may take me a couple of weeks to get back with you because I just had to hire some new people because we're still backlogged. We have a fairly small staff, but we have some solid attorneys working on this case and other cases that we're doing. But, you know, let us know about this because we will send you your questionnaire and the information from you, and if you qualify for one of the lawsuits, we will represent you for free. So let us know. And we need attorneys out there. We need people who will volunteer some time or work at reduced rates to handle these lawsuits because we will be filing all over the country. And we're doing other things. We're working on a case in New Mexico where the Reese family, who owned a gun store, father and mother, 2 sons, were falsely charged by the Justice Department because of Fast and Furious. They were charged with supposedly selling illegal weapons to the drug cartels when in fact they refused to do stuff that was asked the ATF wanted to do that were illegal. So they were charged, and they had 30 charges, criminal charges against them. They went to trial. One son was exonerated. The mother was found guilty of one paperwork violation. The father and other son were found guilty of several paperwork violations. There were serious charges, but later the judge, in a scathing opinion, pointed out that the prosecution had withheld information from the defense that the key witness against the Reese family, a deputy sheriff out there, was himself under investigation as being tied into one of the drug cartels. This would have kept him from being convicted. So he ran a new trial. Well, they filed an appeal. The federal government, the prosecutor out there, has filed an appeal, trying to get the new trial thrown out. So we're involved in the appeal there, and we're doing that. And that's something we also have a defense fund set up for this family, because the government seized all their property. They had no money.
That's what they do. That's what they do, Michael. That's what they do. That's what they did to me when they failed to kill me. And like I said, I'm an old biker and a veteran, and I'm real hard to kill. You can have the first swing. I won't start a fight, but I'll finish one every time. And they couldn't kill me. They couldn't drug me. They couldn't incarcerate me. And so they broke me financially. They destroyed every business. I had one of my magazines sold for $500,000. I still retained 50% of it. We signed a deal on Thursday. We went into, they put a press release out on Wall Street on Friday. I walked into the office Monday, and the CEO was white and shaking. I can't go through with it, Clay. I can't. They're threatening to impeach me. They've contacted every stockholder in the company, a publicly traded company. They've contacted every stockholder and threatened to impeach me if I went through with the deal. Now, I'd like for you to stay on, because there are people out here besides you that are actually doing something. I've got Larry Pratt coming on. Veterans Today will be on, and I'd like to keep you for another hour. So hang on. We got to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
A dictatorship. Oh, be quiet. Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could make 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for health care and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests.
Tune in Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for Liberation Nation with Deacon John, where America comes to hear the truth.
I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
Coming out of work, or scared of losing their job, the dollar by the nickel's worth. Banks going bust, shopkeepers keep the cotton under the counter. Punks are running wild in the streets, and nobody anywhere seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We know things are bad, worse than bad. I want you to get mad. I want you to protest signs, I don't want you to riot, I don't want you to write to your congressman, because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime and the Eastern Time and smear its news with Jason Railwood. Because when it's time to crush, it's time for Jason. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.